This sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
You may start.
Okay. Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you to Dr. Marathi, sir, for a wonderful introduction. And good morning to all. And I apologize for the disturbance. Now, sir already introduced me, so without wasting our time, we should start our presentation. So, before going to the research, we should know some basic terminologies related to research, and one of the important factor and aspect for the research is the data collection, because it is very important for the high impact research. If your data quality is good, then your research ultimately going to the high impact. So today's topic for our discussion is methods of data collection. Sir, please next. Okay, so these are the topics we will cover in our today's presentation. First is the basic concept regarding the sample, regarding the sampling methods, data collection, tools of data collection, and all that. Next, we will move to the sampling method, tools of data collection, criteria for selection of methods and tools. Next, please, sir. So, dear friends, next, please. Dear friends, when we are formulating our research objectives, that time we should know this kind of terminologies to design the statement of problem, to understand the objective of our research. Sir, please back. Okay. So first terminology is population. It simply we can define as the totality of individual observations. It means whatever the events or whatever the observations we are including in our research, that we called as a universe or population. In image you can see the total number of individual, we called it as a population. It may be finite or infinite. If we know the number of each and every individual included in our study, then we called it as a finite population. But if we don't know the total number or individuals included in our population, we called it as an infinite population. The next terminology is sample. It is simply, we can say, the subgroup of population. It means it is a small group or few number of individuals or few number of observations we have taken from our whole sample for the study purpose, and based on that study we can make a inferences or conclusion regarding the whole population. So instead of studying the whole population, we can withdraw the small number of samples from the whole population, and we can do our statistical analysis, our routine experiment based on that samples. So we called it as a subgroup of population. Now next is, what is the sampling? It's simply the way or the step we adapted for the collection or withdrawal of the sample from the population. We called it as a sampling. In simple language, we can call it as a process. Whatever the process we use for the collection of the sample, we called it as a sampling method. Next, please, sir. Okay, so the question is, why we are doing a sample survey or sampling instead of studying the whole population? The aim and need of sample survey is very simple. It will help us to make inferences about the unknown parameter of population, because our total research is depend on our hypothesis, and we need to prove that hypothesis whether it is correct or wrong. So initially we don't know about the what we can say, the unknown parameters, or we don't know about the end results of our research. So we are just hypothesizing. So to test that hypothesis, we also required the study, or we also required to analyze the whole population. Sir, next please. But if you see, studying the whole population, practically it is not feasible. I give you one easy example. You may experience that the government of India, at every decade, they are going to count the population of India. That time they are collecting the data for each and every person present in our country. But economically, it is not feasible. It required too much time. Okay, so for the population study, it is okay, and we are doing this kind of research or survey in every decades. We are not counting the number in every year or in a in 2 years or 3 years. So this time duration for the decades, it's only because of the limitations of such type of census methods. So the alternate option for this kind of methods is sampling, and it is less time consuming, low cost methods, and we can make inferences about the whole population by taking a representative sample from the whole universe or our population. It is easy to work on the limited number of samples, the limited number of peoples we have selected from our population or universe. So sampling is very important method to overcome the limitations of census method. Sir, next please. See, why we need to do the sampling instead of census method? I already told you it is economic of time, economy of money. It will generate a too detailed knowledge regarding the whole population. Even we selected a limited number of samples, but they will represent our whole population. They will represent the whole universe. The data or the samples we have collected, based on that sample, whatever the data or inferences we are made, that we can use for the experimental purpose or statistical purpose or statistical analysis, and we can highly or we can reliable on this data because it is systematically collected, or main point is that they are highly representative for the population. Next, sir. Sir, next slide. Okay. So here you can see what is the advantages of sampling and what is the limitation of sampling. It is a greater adaptability and economic technique. We can the sampling with greater precision and accuracy, provide a quicker result as compared to the census method. It's very logical. If you are dealing with the limited number, we can do our research in a limited time. The most and important point or the advantage of sampling is that if suppose we are working on a destructive kind of samples, it means we need to destruct or we need to kill the animals. I will give you an example. If you are working on some lab animals and you are collecting the data from that lab animals, that time you need to kill that animals. So is it possible to include the all animals, whatever you included in your population or for the study purpose? Practically or ethically, it is not correct. So in that case, we need to do the sampling. We only collect the samples, representative samples from the whole population, and we do our research based on that samples. So it is very important or feasible for the destructive kind of sampling or destructive kind of sample collections. Even though there are so many advantages and benefits for the samplings, they have some limitations, like the scope of biasness. Obviously, when we are selecting the limited number from the whole population, that time we may be biased in the selection of a sample. It is very difficult in selecting a true representative sample. It is the challenge for the researcher to select the proper representative sample from the large number of individual or observations. Need of eligible researcher. It means we have to do the thorough research for the population before going for the sampling. We should know the thorough what we can say, the information regarding that population. See, in some cases, the instability of sample subject or changeability based on the geographical conditions and many other factors, it may be responsible for producing a bias samples, or maybe unintentionally we included the bias samples for our study. It is very complicated and required a more labor. Sampling result in a certain degree of sampling errors. Well, the sampling errors, it's one of the major limitation of the sampling methods, because in many cases researchers not intentionally, but they are doing the research with the sampling bias and sampling errors. So I will explain you the both the concept in later words. So now it's enough right now, sir. Please next slide. Okay. So what would be the good, or what would be the characteristics of good sample? When we can say this sample collected by using a sampling method, it is good for the analysis, or it is good for the making the inferences regarding the whole population. When the sample is representative, it should have a representativeness. It should free from bias. No judgmental or emotional attachment of the researcher with the sample or the sampling process. That should be high accuracy. Size of sample is one of the important factor when you are going with the sampling method. It has the practicability for research. Next slide, sir. Okay, so now we will move ahead with the sampling techniques or methods. I hope you understood the basic concept of regarding the samplings. Now we will move or discuss to the different sampling methods. There are two types of sampling methods, or categories we can say. One is probability and one is non-probability. So you can see in probability there are 5-6 methods, like random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, two-stage or multi-stage sampling, and cluster sampling. While in non-probability, there are also 3-4 samplings, like accidental or conventional, incidental non-probability sampling, judgment or purposive sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. So we will discuss one by one. Before that, I will show you the comparison between both the probability and non-probability sampling. What is the difference between the probability and non-probability sampling? Sir, next slide, please. So probability is simply defined as it is work based on the theory of probability. Okay, it will give a equal chance of each and every element or observations that may be included, or that should be included in our that should be included in our sample. It means it has offered the equal opportunity to all individuals to be included in a sample, and that we can do through the randomization or a random theory. Next is a probability sample. We can say it is yielded a representative sample. It means it is it will help to take a true sample from the population. But in other hand, the non-probability sample, it is non-random based. It is not follow the law of probability. It is absence of any idea of probability. The method of sampling is known as a non-probability sampling. It means we don't have an idea regarding which sample or every individuals or the observations may include or not. It is totally non-random basis. We don't know which element may include or not. Okay, but this type of methods are also used in some cases where there we don't have a list of population, we don't have a total knowledge about the population. In that cases, sometimes we go with the non-probability sample. Okay, next slide please. Now we will discuss the all methods one by one with in a brief explanation. Like in this figure you can see there are a number of peoples we included in our population. Okay, there are different kind of characteristics, but when we go with the simple random sampling, it is one of the probability sampling method. In this method you can see we select the sample that is highlighted by the orange color, that we selected randomly. We don't have any prior knowledge regarding we don't have any prior knowledge regarding that individual sample, but we included based on the random. It means we give an equal opportunity to each and every individual that may be included in our sample. I will give you one simple example. You may experience that the lottery method. We all know how the lottery method is work. We simply return the name of that individual or whatever the events we need to analyze, that return on the cheat, then folded that cheat, and we add all this cheat in one bowl and then ask somebody those are not familiar with that lottery method or those are out of from that study, and ask them to collect or select a single cheat. Okay, so when we selecting that single cheat, we are providing the equal opportunity to all the cheat present in that bowl. So that is the random or simple random method, randomly selecting the sample from the population. Okay, the advantage of this method is it is simple, free from research bias. Okay, it is representative of the sample, but the limitation is it is expensive and time consuming. Now the next method is, sir, next slide please. Okay, so next probability sampling method is systematic sampling method. So in last method we select the sample based on the randomization. Here we select the sample systematically. This is also the probability sampling. Here we simply list out the individuals included in a sample. Then we arrange the list by allocating the numbers and then select the sample with a fixed interval. You can see in an image the sample selected every third person. So this is the strategic or systematic sampling. Even though it is random, systematic random sampling, but here the criteria is to select with the fixed or regular interval. Okay, the advantage, provide a representative sample. Limitation, it is very difficult to achieve, required a time, efforts and money. Next slide, sir. Okay, so next is stratified random sampling. Stratified sampling, here we required to stratify our whole population in a small homogeneous subgroup. We called it as a strata. Like if suppose we are working on a what we can say to educational system, and we are want to analyzing the ratios, like number of student present in our what you can say the college and all that, based on the different characteristics like the age, sex, and some other factors also. So that time we need to stratified, that time we need to homogeneously segregated or divided the population in a small group. Once we stratified, then we randomly select the samples from that strata. Okay, you can see in an image, we are segregating our population in a two major groups, and then we select the sample based on the randomization. Okay, it is very feasible and efficient method, easily manageable. Once we stratified or once we divided, it will help us to reduce the time to select the sample. Okay, low cost and high accuracy. But if suppose there are many difference, it means the characteristics or the factors we included for the stratification, if they are more number, that time it is very difficult to manage all the factors, involve extra planning and information gathering. We should know the each and every character for the strata. Sampling error can be occur when sample does not accurately present the population as a whole. Okay, if suppose the strata we are homogeneously subgroup, that is not equally stratified, that time maybe we took a bias sample, or we can call it as a sampling error. Sir, next slide please. Okay, so next is cluster sampling. The word itself explanatory. Cluster sampling, it means instead of taking a single sample, we are selecting a group of observation or the group of individuals or the cluster as a sample. It is also the probability based, and we select the group. Therefore, it is easy, cheaper, and faster. Okay. If suppose I will give you one simple example. We want to count the number of students in one district. That time we need to go and we need to visit in every school or colleges to count the number of students and all that. Okay, so instead of that, if we stratified this schools present in our district, then we select a representative school from that district. That is called as a cluster sampling. So instead of taking an individual observation, we can take a group or cluster as a sample. Therefore, it is easy, simple, rapid, and all these things. But again, the high sampling error and more complex due to we should keep the representativeness of the sample. If it is not there, then the sampling error and the collected sample may be biased. Next, please. Okay, so the second category of sampling is non-probability sampling. It is simply non-random method. It means the sample collected without randomization. Without randomization means we applying something or we restricted the process by applying some rules and regulations, like in accidental or convincing method. It is one of the non probability method. We selected the sample based on the convenience of researcher. It means you can see in a picture, the researchers selected the samples present nearby them. Correct? So this way we are selecting the sample. This is not a random sampling. We are intentionally selecting those are present close to me. It is very easy method because we no need to do any extra efforts. We simply select the samples, those are present nearby me. Same in our science, we are collecting the samples, those are available to us. Okay, and therefore it is also called as a accidental sample. Well, the major limitation of this method is that it is not representative of sample, because we are intentionally selecting those are present nearby us. It means we are ignoring the true representativeness of that sample. It is not free from errors also. Parametric statistic cannot be possible with this kind of sample. We cannot compare the statistical parameters or statistical uh, analysis for the whole population, because we are selecting only the limited sample that are present nearby me. So it is not a true representativeness. Okay, next. Well, so judgment or purposive sample. You can see the picture. We have selected the sample based on some characteristics that deliberately selected. That characteristic or the what you can say, the factors decided by the researcher. Okay, so deliberately selecting sample, applying the knowledge of researcher, it produce a non-representative sample. Okay, uh, another limitation for this sampling is it is highly sampling error prone method, because we cannot guarantee to select the bias free sample from this method, because we are already applying some characteristics or some factors for the selections. So intentionally we are selecting such kind of sample by based on the knowledge of researchers. Next slide, sir. The next process or the sampling method is quota sampling. It is one of the kind of we can say the stratified sampling. Okay, but here the selection is totally based on the predetermined number or proportion of unit that we called as a quota. It means we already decided what kind of characters, what kind of sample with a peculiar character we included, what is the number of that uh, individuals or the samples should be included in that quota. So this is also non-random method, even though it is quick, easy, but it is bias, error prone, and therefore we cannot apply such kind of method in all cases. They may be used in some cases, but we cannot use such kind of method in scientific research, or particularly for the all methods. Next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Sorry. Hello. Okay. So next method is snowball sampling. You may experience that some marketing strategies there, they people use such kind of sampling method. It means they allocate one person, then that person they included as a sample, they will refer to the another person. It means it is a chain. Okay, so chain based sampling based on the perception or the participation of the one individual that will refer to the another individual, and that way we are gathering our sample for the study, and we call it as a snowball sampling method. Next slide, sir. Hello. Okay, so the next point or the topic of our presentation is tools of data collection. We are discuss different types of sampling methods, and now we will discuss the tools of data collection. So I will explain you a simple difference between the methods and tools. The methods is the process, and the tools are the device we use for the collection of data. I will give you one simple example. If you want to measure your body temperature, that time The measuring of body temperature is the method, and the thermometer you use for the measuring of your body temperature, that is the tool. So in research, whatever the tools we are using for the gathering of data, we called it as a tools for the data collection. Okay. Next slide, sir. Okay. So there are different kinds of tools are available for the collection of data. Here you can see I have presented 6 different types of tools. This is not a methods, these are the tools. So first is questionnaire. So we all had an experience that we had writing an exam. That time the examiner provide us the question paper, okay, and we have to answer that questions. So questionnaire is nothing but a series of question or the list of question that is formulated by the researcher. It is list of questions related to one topic, whatever the topic decided by the researchers. As per the Davis and Johnson, it defined as a questionnaire is a systematic compilation of questions that are submitted to a sampling of population from which information is desired. Right. So it is a well organized questions. We have to answer them, and we call it as a questionnaire. This kind of uh, what we can say, the tool generally used or generally important for this scattered uh, sources. It means we have to collect the information, or we have to collect the data from the large geographical areas, or we can say the scattered source of our samples. That time it is very helpful. We can only need to send our questionnaire to the individual, and afterward we collect the questionnaire with the appropriate answer. It is very easy. Okay. So next is interview schedule. So we know what is the interview. Interview is simply a communication between the two individuals. Okay. It is a way that permit an exchange of idea and information. Interviewing is fundamentally a process of social interaction. These are the different kinds of definition we can use for the interview, but that is the method. And what is the tool for interview? Interview schedule. When, where, how, such kind of questions. It means the interview schedule. Whatever the interview schedule we use for the data collection, that we called as a tool for the data collection. Okay. The interview schedule or the interview may be what we can say, structure or unstructured. The structure interview can be defined as when the interviewer should ask the only questions that have already formulated or oriented by the committee or whatever the authority. Okay, they cannot change the questions for the interviewee. But in unstructured interview, the interviewer have a rights to change the questions. And
अरे दो तूफान कर दिए थे सर, नहीं हम तो और 4 घंटे अलग.
Sorry. So in unstructured interview, the interviewer mainly focus on the intelligence of the interviewee, and they can ask the question based on the intelligence of the interview. Like that. Sorry, I will give you one simple example. If suppose the interviewer asks you the simple questions like, what is your opinion on the woman reservation? So the interviewer maybe give a positive or negative answer regarding that questions, and then the interviewer again ask them whatever the answer, that answer should be justify why you are thinking like that, and all these things. So The interviewer have a rights to change their questions. The interviewer have a rights to orient the questions based on the intelligence of the interview. So we called it as a unstructured interview. Next is rating scale. I think all the participants have an experience regarding this rating scale because we all purchasing something from the online platforms, and there they ask us to rate their product, rate their service and all these things. So they may be in a categories like good, moderate, poor, like that, whatever the categories they selected. So based on this quantitative judgment, they collect the data regarding their service or product. So this is one of the tool generally used for collecting the data opinion from the end users. Next is observation. Observation is a kind of method, we can say, and we can say it include the measurements of what we can say the different results, like in observations, the example for tool is a checklist, CCTV. Rating scale is also one of the example of observation. So whenever we use the checklist, it means we only check whether the respective objective is present or absent. Okay, in such cases, we use the observation technique. CCTV camera is one of the best example for the observation method. We only watch on the events, whatever the we are targeting for our observation purpose. Next is measurement. Measurement included both in vivo and in vitro. So I will give you a very simple example for the measurement. If suppose I want to measure, I already explained that example. I want to measure the body temperature. I require the thermometer, and that measurement is in vivo base. We no need to collect any sample, no need to take any body fluid for the further analysis. We simply put the thermometer and we can record the body temperature. That is pure in vivo measurement. Okay, but in other hand, if suppose I want to determine the blood glucose level, I have to collect the blood and then analyze that blood in lab, and whatever the procedures we are conducting in a laboratory, that we called it as a in vitro measurement. Okay, so that measurement is also the one of the tool we generally use in a science experiments. The last is photograph or video. Photographs and video shows still moving images. Okay, and we can gather lots of information in a single picture or in a single video. We can put it with the caption and we can collect the maximum information through the photos and videos. That is one of the tools for the data collection. Next slide, sir. Next, please. Okay, so what is the criteria we should follow for the selection of method and tools for the sampling or sample collection process? The first and most important, we should know the purpose of survey. The selection is totally depend on the purpose of your study. Okay, which kind of study you want to do. Based on that only you will select the uh, sample method and tool for the collection of data. Next is measurability. It means you should use or you should know what kind of measurements you are going to do. Because see, when we are doing a research, we must remember that there are two costs involved in a our sampling method. First is the cost of collecting the data, and the second, the cost of an incorrect inferences resulting from the data. And the second point is again further categorized, or we can say further divided into the systematic bias and sampling bias. I already told you I will discuss the same point in later. So systematic bias and sampling error, it is two major errors. Systematic bias defined as the results from the error in the sampling procedure, and it cannot be reduced or eliminated by increasing the number of sample. The second, the sample error, it may be reduced or eliminated by the increasing the number of samples. So what we can say, the measurability is another criteria, because inappropriate sampling or the defective devices included in your measurement, it will may result to produce a systematic bias. Okay, because systematic bias, it is related to sampling procedure. So if you aware about the measurability, then you can select the proper method and proper tool. Obviously, degree of precision required. What kind of precision you required for your study, based on that you can go for the type of method and type of tool. Information about the population, it is very important, because if we know about the information, then we can design our experimentation, or it is easy for the designing of the experiment and all that. Nature of population is also important. Geographical area of the study and size of the population. We already seen the different kinds of method, and that is suitable for based on the what you can say, the type of population and size of population. If it is too scattered, then we can go with the cluster method. If it is limited number, we can go with the simple random method. So such type of selection, it may be help based on the knowledge of the geographical areas, size of population, and study of populations. The financial resource, it's one of the important point. If we don't know what is the budget for our research, then it will be very difficult to managing the research, very difficult to select the methods and tools. Time limitation is also important factor, because we know the universities or UGC already given a time limit for these PhD work and all that. So in light of that, you should what you can say, orient your research, or you can plan accordingly with the limited time. And last is economy. Based on the cost, you will select and design your research and included the different kind of tools in your study. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. So I have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So dear participants, now the topic is open for discussion. If you have any queries regarding any doubt, you may ask. Yes, Vichara?
सर प्रोबेबिलिटी और हाइपोथेसिस एक ही है क्या?
Nahi. See, the probability, it's simply defined as the chance or likelihood. It means whatever the observation. If suppose I will give you a simple example. Now we are very familiar with the World Cup and all that. So every match we have to go with the toss. Okay. So what is the probability of getting the head or tail? It means what is the chance of observing the respective event. right? That is the probability. Hello.
Okay, sir.
हेलो.
सर आपका नेटवर्क इशू है सर.
हाँ हाँ. सो हाँ, तो आपने क्या पूछा था? कैन यू रिपीट क्वेश्चन प्लीज?
Hypothesis and
Probability. Okay.
yes.
So hypothesis it means you are hypothesizing. इजी भाषा में बोले जाए तो आपने कुछ कंक्लूड किया है आपके प्री नॉलेज पे से, या फिर जो भी आपने लिटरेचर जमा किया है, करेक्ट, उसके बेसिस पे आपने कुछ तो भी कंक्लूजन निकाला है कि ये इंफॉर्मेशन के बेसिस पे ये चीज ऐसे हो सकती है. ओके.
सर व्हाट टाइप ऑफ प्रिडिक्शन हो सकता है क्या ये?
हाँ, प्रेडिक्शन हो सकता है बेस्ड ऑन द प्रीवियस नॉलेज और इंफॉर्मेशन. ओके. और उसी को प्रूव करने के लिए आपने आपके ऑब्जेक्टिव डिजाइन किए. करेक्ट. वेदर द हाइपोथेसिस प्रोजेक्टेड बाय यू इज नल और करेक्ट. इसका मतलब जो भी आपने बोला है वो सही है या उसके विपरीत है, वो चेक करने के लिए आप पूरा आपका रिसर्च किया है और उसको स्टैटिस्टिकली प्रूव किया है, नॉट इन हाइपोथेटिकल बेसिस. इट मींस हमने कुछ भी बिना किसी एविडेंस नहीं किया है. करेक्ट. तो इसीलिए सब स्टैटिस्टिकल एनालिसिस करके आपने उस हाइपोथेसिस को प्रूव किया है. तो हाइपोथेसिस इज टोटली डिफरेंट, प्रोबेबिलिटी इज टोटली डिफरेंट. प्रोबेबिलिटी इज सिंपल चांस है. चांस का मतलब आप बोल रहे हो कि भाई जब टॉस किया गया है कि हेड आएगा या टेल आएगा, तो 50% प्रोबेबिलिटी इज देयर. एक बार एक तो 50% चांस है कि टेल आएगा, 50% चांस है कि हेड आएगा. दैट इज टोटली प्रेडिक्शन है. बट वो प्रेडिक्शन बहुत सारे उसमें टाइप है. प्रोबेबिलिटी में आपको अलग अलग टाइप पढ़ना पड़ेंगे, देखना पड़ेगा. अप्रायरी बहुत सारे टाइप है प्रोबेबिलिटी में, बट दैट इज बेस्ड ऑन द स्केल 0 to 1. प्रोबेबिलिटी 0 to 1 में काउंट होती है, उसका आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा थोड़ा सा, तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि प्रोबेबिलिटी जैसे कि आपने देखा होगा ड्रीम 11 में आपको दिखाया जाता है, मैच शुरू हुई तब आपको दिखाया जाता है कि व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी फॉर विनिंग टीम एक्स और वाई. सो वो कैलकुलेशंस होते हैं. कुछ भी छोटी मोटी उनके पास इंफॉर्मेशन होती है उसके बेसिस पे, या फिर उनको उस सब्जेक्ट का नॉलेज है उसके बेसिस पे वो प्रेडिक्ट करते हैं कि कितने परसेंट चांसेस है. बट दैट इज स्केल 0 to 1. आपकी प्रोबेबिलिटी 0 से कम नहीं होगी, 1 से ज्यादा नहीं होगी. करेक्ट. तो हाइपोथेसिस अलग है, प्रोबेबिलिटी अलग है. हेलो.
Okay. Any other question? So I think there is no questions. So thank you, sir, for your very detailed and informative lecture. I express my gratitude towards Kodi sir on behalf of all the participants and behalf of Research Committee Science College Nanded for giving your valuable time and expressing your views regarding the data sampling and all these parameters. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me, and I'm grateful for the especially you and your organizing committee, and I also thankful to the all participants for their presence and patiently listening. So thank you again, all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
So dear participants, now we are moved towards our next lecture. I think our next guest is not joined yet. I will call him.